Okay, so now let's talk about the pros and the cons of cloud-based LLMs, because they definitely have some advantages, but they also have some disadvantages. So the biggest pro is that you've got no local infrastructure required. So you don't have to worry about hardware. You can just access it either through the API or through the browser utilities. And it's just, face it, it's easier. And it is definitely, you can build tools using the APIs that come with it. So there is a lot of, the fact that you don't have to do anything is definitely a pro. Other pro is you have access to powerful models. And I don't think it's just the fact that the models are so powerful, it's that the models are so big, okay? And there's so much stuff that's built around it. So you're talking about having models that could be, 1.7 trillion parameters on, if you're talking about like ChatGPT 4.0 or ChatGPT 4.5. So you're talking about models that are absolutely enormous. So the fact that they're in the cloud would really be the only way that you would have access to models like this. Now, with the bigger models, what you have is you have more nuance. So because it's got more weights and biases, there's more interrelationships between the knowledge. So the bigger models are definitely going to be better for a lot of things. They're better for knowing more stuff. Now, the other part of this is you have access to the proprietary tools, the agents and the tools. So for example, ChatGPT 4.0 is really an agent wrapped around a model. So everything with ChatGPT 4.0 uses agents. So when you ask it something, you don't have to worry about whether or not the model was trained recently, because it's got agents and it's got tools and it's got connectors that go out, scan the web, look for the most recent information. So if you ask ChatGPT 4.0 for something that is very, very recent, it's going to know that this is a recent topic, and it's going to use a tool. It's going to go out and look on the web and get information on that. And so that is really, really powerful, and that is something that is a benefit that comes with running local models or with cloud models that you don't get by running the local models. So there is a lot more just out of the box by using a cloud model. Now, it is easy to integrate via the APIs if you're building tools or you're building agents. So API integration is easy. And I'll have to admit that the APIs that the cloud models provide are better than the APIs you get for the local models. So basically, when the local models came out and when the Llama was created, it duplicated the OpenAI APIs at that point in time. So it had the chat completions API, and it created its own version of that. But as ChatGPT, and especially Anthropic, because I think Anthropic is really the one that's leading the way by creating better APIs, the cloud model APIs are considerably better than the local model APIs. And I actually did a reel about how there's a huge opportunity for people to build local APIs and improve local APIs. And that's one of my reels that definitely went viral with almost 1 million views. So people are recognizing the fact that the cloud APIs are better than the local APIs. And then the other thing is the automatic updates and improvements. So if there's a new version of a model, you just get it automatically. You don't have to download a new model, set everything up, it's just there. So those are the pros, and that's really, and there are some pretty significant pros when you're thinking about it from that standpoint. But then you're going to get to the cons, and the cons, sometimes they're showstoppers. For instance, data privacy, if you're looking at something that's protected information, personal information, like HIPAA information, you just can't use the cloud models for those. Now, there are some options where you get private cloud models, and I can see that in the future you're going to start seeing things like HIPAA compliant cloud models. But at this point, data privacy is huge. Now, the other thing is your usage quota and your rate limits. And that is if you're building tools or you're building agents and you're using cloud models in those agents, and you could hit your quotas kind of quickly. And things like Anthropic has had problems where, the models that are less than the most expensive models, you end up getting, you can hit the quotas and you can hit your rate limits pretty easily. Now, another con is the latency compared to local models. Now, this is not as big of a con as a lot of people make it out to be, because what you get with your pros makes up for the latency. So latency in a lot of times doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's local versus remote. It has to do with the fact that these these models that are in the cloud are huge. So if you're talking about something like GPT-4o Pro, you know it's going to take 15 minutes to get results back, but that's not because it's in the cloud. That's because it's just an enormous model that is checking everything twice or three times, and it's going through a reasoning process. So in cases like that, there is a problem with the latency, but the latency is not because of local versus cloud. It's because of small model versus large model. Then the other thing, another con is the black box behavior. You don't actually know what it's doing or how it's doing it. And so I kind of throw a lot of the hallucinations I've been seeing from ChatGPT 4o into this black box behavior, because some of the things you get, you send it off and you don't know what it's doing. And in some cases, in one case, I spelled Claude wrong and it did an entire hallucination. Recently, I asked it to put a slide deck together based on AI classification models, and it just made them up. The things it was creating didn't actually exist. So black box behavior, sometimes when you don't know what's behind a model like a cloud model, you just don't know how it's going to perform in different ways. And then costs can scale quickly. And a lot of this has to do with choosing the right model and making sure that you're counting your tokens and you're not going crazy. You know, for instance, the ChatGPT 4o Mini, it costs about 1/20th, 5% of the cost of GPT-4o. And 4o Mini, I really, for text processing and for agent type processing stuff, I haven't found any difference. So your costs can scale quickly if you're not careful with what model you choose and passing too many tokens when you don't need to. So that is a con. So these are the pros and cons of the cloud model, but again, you're going to have to choose your models wisely depending on your use case.